Welcome everyone. Today we are going on hands-on with the Dynasties of the East, the 4 Variant civilization, and the brand new roguelite game mode for Age of Empires 4. I'm joined by ZeroEmpires. Let's get into it. Welcome ZeroEmpires.
Hello.
For viewers who don't know yet, what's your role in Age of Empires 4?
All right. Well, it's funny you introduced me as ZeroEmpires. My name's Zach Robinson, and a lot of people in the community know me as ZeroEmpires. You might have seen me posting on Reddit under that name, or maybe you have got a bit more of a history before Age 4, where I was posting as ZeroEmpires on YouTube and Twitch, even way back when, 10 years ago or so now. I actually picked up my life 5 years ago and moved from the UK to Vancouver, the west coast of Canada, all for a job. And that job was at Relic Entertainment. And I joined Relic 5 years ago as a balance designer on Age of Empires 4. But today I'm here as the design lead for Relic on the Age of Empires 4 project. And it's important that I say for Relic here because there are a lot of dev teams that work on Age 4, and Relic is just one of them. But we've sort of had the largest role in this Dynasties of the East expansion, which I'm super excited to talk to you about today.
Wow, that's a really good story we heard from you right now. Because let me tell you that the only way I heard about you always is ZeroEmpires, ZeroEmpires, ZeroEmpires. So now at least I know your name now. So that's okay. So what was the core vision for Dynasties of the East?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's an exciting, it's a big DLC. We've got a lot of content in here. When I moved on to the team for this project and found, yes, okay, we're doing 4 variant civs, it was really important that we spent a lot of time researching, finding exciting parts of history that these 4 civs sort of can bring influence from, and really trying to push these forward. Take what we sort of thought of as variant civs back with Sultan's Ascend and really bring that into a whole new level, right? Level it up, bring it to a whole new level, and try to deliver an expansion pack that is going to be bringing a lot to the table in terms of gameplay and all the great strategies and so much fun. In addition to the 4 variants, of course, we have the Crucible game mode, and we're really excited to try and do something big and new in the single player space. I'm sure we'll talk about it at length during this meeting, but yes, the Crucible was a really good opportunity for us to just try something different and get a little bit more experimental with the single player side of things.
So campaign and skirmish players, aka the casuals, will be really, really high for the Crucible, because I'm pretty sure that's fully aimed for those players who really like the single player content of Age of Empires 4. And the players who like to play more like in PvP and ranked are going to be really focused on the new civilizations rather than the single player modes. Do you feel the same about that?
I think you're probably right, but I think the Crucible should have something for everybody. It was certainly our goal that the Crucible can meet you where you're at in terms of your skill level. On the original sort of design, we kind of had this idea of from bronze to conqueror. You will find something, a challenge in the Crucible, no matter your skill level. And that's sort of why we introduced with the Crucible 8 different difficulty levels. We've had people who've never played an RTS game before playing on the easiest and being able to cope and get through that and have a great time. And then we've had people who are top 10 on the ladder come in and also struggle a little bit with some of the difficulties on the higher end. So we've definitely tried to meet players where they're at regardless of skill level. But I do think, yeah, you're probably right that, if you are someone who likes campaign or single player content, that there's going to be quite a lot there for you as well. But I wouldn't exclude the multiplayer crowd from getting involved.
This is a huge question, a hot topic on Reddit and also forums as well. How did you keep a strong historical identity while still pushing fresh mechanics, like a good example, the Macedonian with the Viking?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as with all civs and variants, it always starts from looking into the history and spending a lot of time doing historical research. Of course, with variants, we are looking at that sort of original civ to draw from and find interesting area or parts of their history or interesting times during that Civs sort of timeline that we could really draw out from. So in this case, you know, we looked at Mongol history, we looked at Japanese history, we looked at Byzantine history, and we looked at Delhi history. And you know, the second part there is sort of like, how do we find these unique mechanics? Well, it's sort of imperative that we do that, right? Like, part of the thing that really makes a civilization in Age of Empires 4 so special is that it has this asymmetric design. Everything is different, and every civ we aim to bring something new to the table, whether that's a civ or a variant, right? And that should be no different. And certainly with these four, that's really been a high priority, right? Making sure that we bring something to the table. But it always goes back to historical reference gathering, research, and trying to tease out things that work well and map well onto the gameplay. And there's a lot of back and forth and iteration involved there over the whole process. It's not just you know, you design it and it's done. You certainly keep dipping back into the history. You keep refining the design, and you keep looking for new opportunities to do that. And I think with all four of these variants, they're all bringing something new to the table. They've all managed to find their own space within Age 4 and carve out some new space as well.
So far, what I've seen, by the way, while seeing testing out these sieves, they really do feel different compared to their main sieves, which honestly I think it's insanely good, because I can give you a good example of which is not really true. It's like French and JT is like insanely similar, or HRE and OOTD literally very similar, just, you know, double the value. But when I tested this four new civilization, I didn't feel the same when I played French JT or HRE OOTD, which honestly feels like I'm playing with a completely new civ. So let's jump on the civs correctly right now. We are talking about first the Golden Horde, which trades the nomad into centralized power, which means they can't travel their buildings anymore, right? They have also multiple Ovoos, and they are aging up from the Golden Tent. What decisive moment does the Golden Tent create, since it has abilities, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Golden Tent is really a core piece of the Golden Horde. You know, we wanted to represent that tent because sort of where the Golden Horde gets its name from, right? There was this in history, you know, they got their name from having these golden tents. So certainly the Khan having this great golden tent. And you can see even in the asset of the golden tent that it's got like the wheels and the platform. And you can see, if you look back into some historical drawings and things, like exactly where that influence is taken from. But the golden tent does have abilities. It's got a lot going on. It's your age up building. Obviously you're making really critical choices there at the time of age up, which direction you want to go. But there's also the edicts on there as well. And the edicts is the Golden Horde's influence system. So the Golden Horde build fortified outposts, and around those outposts there's an influence. And changing the edict at the Golden Horde sends out these eagles, which travel to all corners of your empire, relaying the message of the Khan, saying, no, we're not focusing on production. We're focusing on Karash or stockyards or defensive bonuses. And so it's sort of like this really key place where you can go and change something across your entire base, and where you've sort of built out these fortified outposts.
Wow, well, I can tell you that that's crazy. Just thinking about, it's gonna be a little bit more macro intense playing Golden Horde, to thinking which one you should choose, like the gold gathering from the pastures, or the faster unit production from the production buildings. Wow. I have a really good question about the multiple Ovoos. How do you prevent greed into snowball? Because on closed maps, you can have multiple relics, let's say, successfully collected. And if I seen it correctly, there is Imperial upgrade for the Ovoos. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the Ovoos will generate Tideborn, if I'm correct, or is it the Ovoos that you make out of relics?
You mean, okay, so the Golden Horde have a mechanic where they can actually convert relics into Ovoos, which allows them to essentially trade the gold income for stone, of course. But yes, you're right. Like the upgrade that there's two upgrades actually. There's upgrades which increases the Ovoo stone gather rate. You can find that at the Gur, and so that will increase the stone generation across all of your Ovoos. And it's important to remember with the Golden Horde, you're not limited to just one Ovoo. You can actually build one extra Ovoo for every age. So it's possible for you to actually go ahead and get 4 Ovoos up by the time you reach the Imperial Age. I'm sorry, I realized I didn't answer part of your question there, which was how do you prevent like greed and things like closed maps versus open maps? And I think that's actually a really good consideration. And it's something we do think about a lot. If I can give an example of something like the Ottomans, right? The Ottomans have vizier points, and you earn vizier points or experience towards vizier points by training military units. And for a long time, that used to be the only way you could gain it. But we actually added the ability to gain vizier points through training villagers as well. And we specifically did that because if you're on a closed map and you're not making army, then you would be screwed. You wouldn't be able to actually get vizier points, right? And so we do think about this. And when we think about balance and kind of how these civs sort of end up playing out over the course of the game, there's this idea that every civ has a sort of like maximum potential, right? Like the maximum like that a civ can reach. But there's also this idea of like tempo, like how quickly you can increase your resource generation. So to give an example of that, right? French, the villager trains faster at the town center, so they build their economy faster, but because that system doesn't allow them to like produce more resources at maximum, if you see what I mean. And so those things are kind of always trading off against each other, and that's always something that we're trying to keep in mind when it comes to balancing civs in terms of like, okay, are they going to be good in open map situations? Are they going to be good in closed map situations? And as much greed as you can do in a closed map situation, your opponent's civ can probably do a roughly equal amount of greed on their side of the map as well. It's generally what we're aiming for anyway.
Okay, that's interesting now, just thinking about it. Yeah, that makes sense. That completely makes sense. Yeah. All right, let's go for the next one. Khan and the elite guards for the Khan. What their purpose and why them?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously with variant civs, that there's still a tie to the base civ, and this is something which you'll kind of see across all of these 4 variants. There's still some relationship to the parent civ. And so in the case of the Mongols, they start the game with a Khan, and we still wanted to preserve the Khan as a unit for the Golden Horde, but we did want to do it a little bit differently. The Khan for the Golden Horde is called Batu Khan, and it's called Batu Khan because we really wanted to kind of center the civ around the fact that Batu Khan was sort of the first leader of the Golden Horde, and also that Batu Khan was sort of presiding over the Golden Horde before they did their sort of religious transition. You'll see that they still have shamanism and the shamans from the prayer tents. And so that sort of grounds this sort of in terms of the timeline and the history that we're telling specifically with the Golden Horde. But in terms of the Batu Khan himself and the Torgut, which are the bodyguard, we really wanted to try and do something a little different. So if you think about Joan of Arc, right? Joan of Arc has a damage reduction. So any incoming damage gets reduced. And that was kind of there to prevent Joan of Arc just getting blown up. 20 hand cannons, 30 hand cannons. You just right click, and Joan's dead, right? And this is kind of something that happens across the game. Like we have these really important like hero units or these kind of like champion units like the Khan or Joan. And a lot of players don't bring them into combat. They kind of hold them back, right? Because they're so squishy otherwise. Now with Joan, Joan used to have a much higher damage reduction, but that causes problems as well
Yeah.
because you can just use Joan to tank. I remember there was a time where Joan of Arc was like tanking keeps, and you just kind of send Joan in first. The keep attacks Joan, she reduces all the damage, and then all your other units torch the keep, right? And so that's kind of like the challenge of doing that kind of unit. And so with Batu Khan and the bodyguard, the Torgud, we wanted to do something different and try and solve some of those problems, or at least approach it in a different way. And so when the bodyguard are near to the Khan, when the Khan takes damage, the damage is deflected and transferred to the bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
And this means that you can protect your Khan in combat. The Khan isn't just going to get blown up the moment it reaches the front line and gets, right-clicked by 40 crossbowmen or something. But actually, that damage gets spread onto the bodyguards. And this means that we can have a Khan that's incentivized, or we want to incentivize you to bring it into battle. And with the Khan being on the front line, Batu Khan also has a bonus or a ability which increases the damage of all of the units around it the longer it's in combat for. And that increases for each age, up to 30% in the Imperial Age. So bringing the Khan into battle, making sure that you have Turgut to keep the Khan alive, creates a really cool synergy, and it creates an opportunity to like actually have a frontline kind of charge into battle style sort of elite special hero unit.
Wow, like I can tell you that I can already hear the World of Warcraft sound, like the boss fight is coming and you have to kill the minions first before you can attack the boss. So
Yeah.
that's really giving me a vibe of like, well, that's exactly a new civilization that we're gonna play, even though if it's just a Warrior civilization of the Mongol. So now the next question is exactly like that. So if a Mongol main tries to play the Horde, Golden Horde first time, they should expect a very different world while playing them, right? Correct? Because just all the things that you mentioned, it's literally says like, well, and I'm not gonna play it like Mongol. Because I also heard that they have wolves.
Yeah, that's right. We gave Golden Horde palisades, right? We didn't give them full walls, but they do get palisades. And it is kind of to represent the fact that the Golden Horde was a little more settled, right? Like the Golden Horde is a time period of Mongol history, sort of after it's split between East and West. This is kind of the Blue Horde, the Western side of it. And, we wanted to differentiate them that way. So they can't move their buildings. They don't have to like sort of build Ovoos and then relocate buildings around them to get the influence bonus. That's a lot simpler. And one of the things that we hoped to achieve, and maybe you can tell me if we did or not, we did want the Golden Horde to be a little easier to play in some ways, like in terms of not having to manage your buildings movement and things like that. But in terms of do they feel different? Well, absolutely, right? Like you've got the golden tent, you're aging up in a different way. You've got the batch production on your units, which you're going to feel immediately because everything trains in batches of 2. And of course, later on, you can even upgrade that to become batches of 3. And you're building your economy up in different ways as well, securing more Ovoos and building the new stockyards, which replace the pastures and kind of change a little bit of your eco build, I think.
Yeah, when I was trying Golden Horde, and so I just launched in without like any increased resources, just a normal game. And I can tell you that the age of timings were different. I can tell you that absolutely no chance for tower rush in Dark Age. That's for sure. Because of the cost of the tower. Yeah, so...
Yeah.
It plays
it's a lot
out
more
way
expensive.
Yeah, it's way more expensive. It's also cost stone, so it was way more expensive. And also like the little touch on the Golden Horde that you actually have units from other civilizations. Like you have the horse archer from the Ottoman Empire, right? And you have reinforcement coming to the golden from the golden from the landmark. Which spawns like 4 or 5 Rus soldier when it reaches the stone to 0, or you can purchase it yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So in terms of the unique units, you called out already they get the Kipchak archer, which is like a Turkic influence, which came a bit later, but it's kind of a fun way to, again, differentiate them from Mongols. They still have a cavalry archer role. It's important, but it comes in the Castle Age. It replaces the Mangudai. It has a different sort of gameplay around it. Has like a bleed bonus and a special upgrade, which synergizes with that as well. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously in the history of the Golden Horde, they had a major westward expansion. And as part of that, they, it's funny, if you go play the Rus campaign, there's a Rus campaign called, so there's a mission in the Rus campaign called Tribute. And in that campaign, you play as the Rus, but you have to give tribute to the Golden Horde. But the Golden Horde themselves, as a Civ, tells the other side of that story. You're extorting tribute from the Rus, and you can do that with your Rus tributes that you get to call, but you can also do that with your Castle Age Up, which can equip your units with Rus shields and give you additional wood, which you're sort of extracting as tribute from the Rus. So we're trying to tell that story a little bit of how they interacted with those civilizations in the West.
And also, I really like the way the Golden Horde got approached and also put onto the table, because it really summarizes the civilization that, oh yeah, this is historically accurate, right? So I really like all these touches and changes and everything that got into the Civ. And I can tell you that it feels so much different from Mongol, and it was a really nice job on it. Well, we have to go to the next civilization now. So let's talk about the Macedonian Dynasty, which is the Byzantine variant. The Macedonian Dynasty leans into a Varangian military army and a silver economy. How is the silver generated and spent? Is it exchanged apparel income like stone or a tag-gated bonus, or is it like just the same as olive oil, or what's happening with this silver?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I touched on this a bit with the Golden Horde, right? Like trying to keep a thread or a connection to the Mongols. And the silver is kind of like keeping that connection to the Byzantines in a way, right? The Byzantines are known for having that fifth resource. And we keep that fifth resource with the Macedonian dynasty. But of course, you generate it in a different way. So your villagers will drop off silver as they mine gold and stone. So they'll just kind of passively generate it. But we did something a little different, where as you drop off the gold and stone at the mining camp, or even a town center, the silver that's generated, first of all, it goes straight to your bank, but the mining camp itself also gets some of that silver. And then what you can do is place the new Varangian arsenal building next to the mining camp, and that will slowly generate additional silver over time so that you can have a passive long-term income. And this was kind of an interesting one to design, because there was a few challenges with this idea of generating silver from a finite resource like stone and gold. Of course, for the Byzantines, they generate olive oil from their farms, but generating silver from farms doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so that's kind of how we came about with this idea of you bank that silver onto the mining camp, and then you get permanent long-term generation of that silver by using the influence system with the arsenal.
So I can tell you that by hearing this, I will spend a lot of silver on getting the upgrades, correct?
Oh yeah, I mean the Varangian arsenal is an interesting, unique building, because it kind of combines the role of the blacksmith with the role of the university. And so the upgrades in there are for your melee infantry, your ranged infantry, and your cavalry. And there's also upgrades in there that improve your building health and your siege health. A bit like the blacksmith, they're split into damage and then armor. But in addition to armor on the defensive upgrades, you also get health. But the big thing here is that you only get to spend silver on these upgrades. It's kind of like your eco bonus. You're spending the silver, which you're getting for free and getting passively, and that is sort of saving you the gold and the food that you would typically spend on those upgrades. But even more importantly, those upgrades let you go further than a blacksmith. or further than a university does, because instead of just having 3 levels, there's 6 levels to each one of these upgrades, which means that in the Imperial Age, you can have +6/+6 on your if you get all the way. And I say if you get all the way because they're really expensive, right? Every time you upgrade one of these, the price goes up. And so by the end, I think it's like 4,000 silver for the last melee infantry upgrade, and it gets pretty expensive. And so in a really long game, you might get everything. In an average game, you've got to pick and choose, and yeah, pick wisely.
So before we jump to the next question, what happens if my mining camp get destroyed that's extracting the silver right now? Because I'm pretty sure when you drop off, right, you drop the silver into the mining camp, you need the arsenal as you mentioned, but what happens if any of the buildings get destroyed?
So if the arsenal gets destroyed, the passive generation stops. So you just build another arsenal and it will start again. If the mining camp gets destroyed, there's actually a silver deposit that starts to build up underneath the mining camp as the silver builds up there. And that can just be rebuilt. So if you build another mining camp over the silver deposit where the silver has started to accrue, you'll be able to just grab that silver again and start doing the passive generation. So you can certainly you can deny a Macedonian Dynasty player from those resources, but they can always get them back if they are able to regain that area of the map.
Okay, now that makes sense, because I was thinking of like early rushes for the against the Macedonian Dynasty, because I'm pretty sure their barrack has arrow slip, but it's only in feudal, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's right. It's only in feudal. It's definitely, this is one thing which we've gone back and forth on quite a bit internally with the Balance team. And actually, I should at this point probably shout out Forgotten Empires, who we collaborate with on Balance. I'm sure you've worked with Frank before, and
Yeah.
I'm sure people have seen Maito and Felipe and others, right? Fiage and those guys. So we're working with them. We're playtesting a lot. And originally, the Varangian stronghold had default arrow slits. So you just build it and it would have arrow slits immediately. But of course, it kind of became a little bit too good as a bit of a Varangian stronghold tower rush type thing. And so we ended up making that actually into an upgrade, which comes a little bit later, because we did want it to be more of a defensive thing rather than being used as offensively. I mean, I wouldn't rule out being able to potentially use this offensively, but that was never sort of like the main intent.
Now that we talked and mentioned their new barrack, can you introduce the new Varangian units and what they are capable of?
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, the Varangian Stronghold is the barracks replacement. So it completely replaces the barracks, but it also trains all of the Varangian units that the Macedonian Dynasty have access to. And so they have a spearman replacement, which is the Atgemater. They have the early Varangian Guard. So, of course, we know Byzantines get Varangian Guards in Castle Age, but they get an early version, so a feudal version. They also have the Bogmater, which is the archer replacement, and they have the Radari, which is the cataphract or knight replacement. The Varangian Guard, and so this sort of goes back to why Macedonian Dynasty, a little bit of the historical research and influence, right? Basil II was the sort of the head of the Macedonian Dynasty during the Byzantine Empire. And this was really the height of the Byzantine Empire. And he was well known for being the person to sort of engage the Varangians and bring them into the Byzantine military. And so for the Byzantines, the Varangian Guard, it's a little bit of a footnote almost in the Civ, right? Like they have so much going on. They've got so much bigger stuff, right? They've got like the whole mercenary system. They've got so many things. But the Varangian Guard is such a small piece. And so we wanted to sort of zoom in a little bit more on the Varangian part of this. And, I think that's really fun. The Atgear is, and I'll say this as well, right? Like these are replacements for Spearman, Archer, and Knight. And so when you're playing against these, you can still sort of think of them as spearmen, archers, and knights. And that was really important, right? Like, as we add more content to the game, as the game gets bigger, inevitably there's more to learn. It gets harder to kind of, understand what everything does. And so it was really important to us that when you see that gear matter, you understand it's a spearman, you understand the archers still counter it. When you see the bog matter, you understand it's an archer and horsemen still counter it, right? Like, these things are really important. The Agya matter, all of them, they have this special runestone ability. So as they lose units in combat, they can actually build the runestones on the field. And by constructing a runestone, they get extra damage and move speed. So that's kind of like a dynamic bonus which you can place down. And then the Atgeir Matter has a sort of passive ability which they just gain attack speed for being near other Varangian units. The Bog Matter has a special ability where they can increase their armor penetration, but they have to trade off move speed to do it. And then the Ridari has an ability which allows them to throw axes, which is really fun. Like, the Ridari is probably one of my favorite units from the expansion, actually. It's so cool. It doesn't have a charge attack, but being able to throw the axes, like, it's so good for like sniping siege and stuff. It's pretty fun for that.
So now I don't need to use my Cuttlefrog to charge in on the enemy siege and my Cuttlefrog die. Of course I snipe the siege, right? The Cuttlefrog dies. Here I just use the Ridari to snipe out the siege and I don't lose them. That's genius. I love that. I love that. That's amazing.
Something different. Yeah.
All right. So the last question I have for the Macedonian Dynasty is that, do you think the silver economy will hurt the civilization since you need to upgrade everything separately? Like, let's say you focus only on, let's say, melee units or only on range units. Do you think the team spent enough time to consider everything? That, okay, so even though we don't have university upgrade anymore, right? So let's say player A went with only cavalry and melee upgrades, but they are struggling to get the ranged upgrades for the archer and the crossbow. Do you feel like the players will not struggle to research the upgrades in time, or there's gonna be a little bit more digging into it?
Yeah, I mean, I won't sit here and tell you that we're going to get it just right the first time. There's always a lot that we learn from putting this out into the world, seeing how players engage with it, seeing what we can learn from putting this in the hands of many, many more players than we have internally to test with. But as I say, we're working with FE. We do a lot of play testing internally. But you're right? Like, the Varangian arsenal, it does mean that you have to pick and choose a little more carefully, right? Like, you can't necessarily afford to do everything. And that is one of the weaknesses of the Civ. And I think, every Civ has to have some weaknesses somewhere. And hopefully, we've got it about right, but time will tell. And we're certainly not going to be hesitating to make balance changes and adjust things as we need to.
All right, let's go now to Sengoku Daimyo, the Japanese variant. Sengoku lets you pledge to Takata, Oda, or Hojo, and now grow with Daimyo estates. So, the faction elegance. Can players respect mid-game? And how do you avoid one right choice metas? So, a little bit longer, someone maybe doesn't understand the question. Can you just, go, let's say, only one clan, or do you need to go 2 clans, or do you need to go all 3 clans? Can you go 3 clans? How does it work? I don't understand.
Okay, so I mean, first of all, I'll say, the Sengoku Daimyo, probably the most complex of the 4 civs. Like, Macedonian Dynasty, Golden Horde, there was definitely a bit of an effort there to make them more approachable and more accessible. But Sengoku Daimyo, we wanted to try something a little bigger, certainly try something which opens more doors to them, and ways in which you can play them that are very, very different to the Japanese. So, of course, like first of all, you're making landmark choices, but in addition to that, you're making choices about which of the clans you want to support. And again, going back to like how this is inspired by history, well, we really wanted to zoom in on this like warring clans period, the Sengoku Jidai of Japanese history, where these prominent clans were fighting for dominance and fighting. It was such a fractured time, and you as a player, you get to choose which of the clans you want to sort of support, and in doing so you're going to get bonuses to the sort of combat areas of the combat triangle that those clans are aligned with. So for example, if you take Oda, you're aligned with ranged. If you take Hojo, you're aligned with infantry, melee infantry. And if you take Takeda, you're aligning yourself with cavalry. So that's kind of like the high level way to think about it, that sort of triangle. But in gameplay, you can only build 2 of those clans in a single game. You can't build all 3. And so I think this sort of speaks to your question about, how do you avoid, the right choice meta, so to speak. And I think like hopefully this doesn't sound like a cop out, like a cheap answer, but I think it depends a little bit, right? Like it's going to depend a lot on the matchup. Who's your opponent? Like what are they potentially going to do? What are their options? It's going to depend on the maps to some degree. And there's a lot that goes into, I think, the decision making. Of course, you have to make a decision at some point. And so you could pick to go with melee infantry and ranged infantry is your clan choice, and then leave the cavalry. Next game, maybe you do something else. But we certainly try, and our aim with any of these systems is to not necessarily have one path and only one path that is the best path. And of course, over time, metagames develop, right? Like in a year from now, if we never made a balance change, a lot more would be figured out about the game, and certain things that's just the best way to do it. And that's kind of where I think bringing in balance changes, trying to keep the metagame fresh and updated is really important. But obviously on day one with the DLC, it's going to take a while, I think, for people to really figure it out and understand this fully and what to do in what situation. But I'll also add one more thing as well, which is although you can only take one of the clans to level 3, and you can only take the other clan to level 2, and the other clan that you didn't pick, you don't get to pick during the game. That still works, right? Like if you think about the English have a lot of bonuses to their ranged, to their melee infantry, don't really have much for the cavalry. And so it's definitely still viable to make knights, or I should say mounted samurai, if you don't go for the Takeda clan. There's still a role for that unit in the game. It's just that obviously you're choosing to power up your infantry a little more in that situation.
Yeah, but I can think about it as well. That's correct, but the English still has the attack speed for those knights. If attacks under a tower, right?
Yeah. Network of castles, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
But you still, I'll say, you still get that with the daimyo. So the Sengoku Daimyo actually has a version of that. You can make the daimyo, and it will increase the attack speed of all nearby units, regardless of what type of unit it is.
That's correct. Also, I'm really curious about how iconically will be represented the Sengoku. Like, do they have like Ashigarus, the matchlock's weapon, or do they have like a different horseman type of unit?
Yeah, let's talk about the unique units. So, I mean, you talked about the Tanegashima Ashigaru. This is a really important unit in Japan's history, right? And it's directly from Oda, who traded matchlock pistol or matchlock rifles, I guess you would call them, with the Portuguese, and sort of introduced them into Japan around this time period. And that's also actually why Oda is the head of the ranged themed clan. And there are unique upgrades as well in there, which improve your ranged units, including the Tate, which allows the Tanegashima Ashigaru to deploy a standing shield. But the Tanegashima Ashigaru, it's a castle age hand cannoneer, essentially, which is pretty strong against heavy units. It's essentially like your Onamusha or your crossbowman replacement for this civilization. You can think of it that way. The Azutsu, of course, is unique to the Japanese. You can get this a little earlier with Sengoku Daimyo. If you go Oda, you can actually unlock the earlier Zutsu, which allows you to train them in the Castle Age. They also have the Yari cavalry, which is the horseman replacement, which again, you can think of it like a horseman, but it is more effective against other cavalry units. It has a small bonus against cavalry, so it's a little bit more effective in feudal against other horsemen. And then the other sort of big unique unit, well, there's a couple more, but the Kanabo Samurai is a brand new addition. And this is such a cool unit. It's got this huge bat. It's available from the feudal age, and it does bonus damage, which is a percentage of the enemy's max health. It's the first time we've done something like this, but its effectiveness essentially goes up a lot when it's against very high health enemies, such as elephants.
Yeah, such as elephants.
Thanks God. It's super good.
Okay, listen, the only reason why I'm going to play with this civilization to counter elephants. Because everyone knows elephants are insanely strong.
There's a couple more unique units as well. We got rid of the religious choice. So in Japan, you go Shinto or Buddhist, right? It's Castle Age landmark. Here we just have the Iko-Iki monk, which is a replacement monk. It's a combat monk and it heals during combat. This felt like a really good thing to include for the Sengoku Daimyo, since the Iko-Iki were a faction which were sort of heavily involved in the conflict. And then they also have, I suppose you could count the Yatai as a unique unit as well, which is their food cart.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask you a question about this mechanism because honestly, the Japanese of the Sengoku Daimyo is so insanely different and it's causing me literally headache. So I feel like it's like literally the Hoarder version of Japanese. So I feel like Japanese, let's say like 2-star Civ, right? But I feel like Sengoku Daimyo is actually 3-star Civ. I'm not even joking with you. Because the reason why I'm saying that, because I'm not sure, do I need to build the market in Dark Age? But I can't afford the Yatai. It's so expensive. I have to get to so much wood. Is it worth it though to get? So it's like so complicated, so many numbers and everything. And I'm pretty sure when the pro players will play around it and figure out things. But at the same time, I feel like casual players will a little bit struggle, just like Byzantine release day. Oh my god. I still remember everyone was like, did you do your PhD for the Byzantine? You know, at release day. I'm gonna feel like it's gonna be the same with this civilization because everything is so new, fresh, and nothing is connected to Japanese as like a meaning to play with the civilization.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, first of all, like our intent with this whole DLC is that every Civ is going to be bringing something new to the table and it's going to feel different to play from the opening seconds, right? Like your build order might be different. There's something immediately there that sets them apart. But, you know, we're also trying to cater to a really broad range of players. There are players that really like those depth and complexity things, and there are players which, you know, prefer them a little less. And I think we have tried to kind of cover the spectrum of sort of a complexity, I guess, with these four. But yeah, I mean, I think it will get figured out at some point, but there's definitely some interesting openings with the Sengoku Daimyo, starting with the Matsuri immediately, kind of sending everything to wood, almost like you're playing naval or something, and getting out an early Yatai. It's definitely something I've seen a little bit of. But I'd also add, right, like one of the things that was really important for us here is that the Yatai is contestable. It gives you a pretty strong bonus. And actually internally, and this is funny, right? Like when we released Byzantines, you mentioned Byzantines, we've been playing them for months internally, and we were convinced that they were OP. And if you remember, like we had to buff Byzantines like 4 times, 4 patches in a row. And like internally, like we've been thinking that Sengoku Daimyo is pretty OP as well. And we've nerfed the Yatai actually quite a lot.
Wow.
We'll see if it's in the right place or if it needs more or less, or we need to go back on that. But yeah, the Yatai obviously gives you a pretty strong, powerful way to expand your economy early. obviously there's a little bit of risk there. You have to put it in an exposed location, and that's really important. We thought about this a lot with making sure that there's counterplay opportunities available to some of these mechanics, so that you can go and raid them and push them off of their deer patch or their boar or whatever they've parked the attire next to.
Wow, that's really good to know. Like, I already felt like Yata is not really that bad. I feel like it's good because it gives you food, but of course you have to pay it for wood. It felt like a pit mine, but easier to set it up. But at the same time, you mentioned that it got multiple nerfs as well. I don't want to even imagine how was it. All right, so let's go to the next civilization. Now I'm pretty sure we talk about a lot about Sengoku Daimyo. We're gonna go with Tughlaq Dynasty, which honestly, so next to Golden Horde, I really liked it. I played it a lot, so I tested it and I played it, and it was such amazingly good design. Like if someone doesn't know, I'm a really huge Delhi fan. I really like Delhi. At the launch of the game, I played Delhi for like literally 1 year. Just Delhi, only Delhi. I had like a 2,000 Delhi games. Um, and when I tried Tughlaq Dynasty, I was like, wait, that's not Delhi. They have elephants, they do, but it's not really Delhi. Well, let's see, why is it? So Tughlaq uses a governorship system and adds worker elephant and ballista elephant, and also a raiding elephant. Honestly, with you, this governorship system, it was so beautiful. The UI, the ideas, everything behind it, it was whoa. All right, but let's talk about it. Governorship. Our governors are limited roster like ours. You equip them by age or map responsive choice per TC. It means like, do you need like a neutral market, or can you just tell us how does it work? It's amazing. I loved it, but I need more information about it.
Sure. Yeah. So the governor system. Okay. I guess I'll just quickly start by mentioning that Tughlaq. I sound like a bit of a stuck record here. They have a connection to Delhi. Delhi's whole thing is tech, right? And Tughlaq's big thing is that we wanted to keep a tech theme, but we turned it on its head. So Delhi's techs are all free and they're really slow, and you have to handle all the scholars, and it's kind of fiddly. Tughlaq's whole thing is techs are almost instant, basically. They take 5 seconds.
But expensive.
But you pay a little bit extra for them. So there's a little bit of connection to Delhi there, but the governor system, that's entirely new. That's entirely built on top of the Civ, and the sort of inspiration for the governor system comes again from history. Ghazi Malik, the the leader of this Civ at the time, well, the first, I should say, appointed a lot of governors through his time, and all of those governors represent different places, real places, and kind of have thematic ties to those places as well, which is pretty cool. But how does it work? Well, you have to build Tughlaq forts. Tughlaq forts are the keep replacement, but they're available in Age 2, and it's a much weaker keep. It's a lot less health and it's less damage, and it does scale up with upgrades, but in the feudal age, it's much weaker. And each Tughlaq fort that you build, you can appoint a governor. And when you pick a governor, you have essentially 6 different governors to choose from, and they all do different things for you, broadly sort of categorized by economy, defensive, religious, technology, tempo, that kind of stuff. Now, the governor gets assigned and you get the governor benefit immediately, but the interesting thing with the Tughlaq dynasty is that you can go wide or you can go tall, is kind of the game design thinking behind this, because the Tughlaq fort can be upgraded, so you can spend more resources on tiering up the Tughlaq fort, which makes your one governor stronger, or you can build another Tughlaq fort and have a second governor, but both of those governors are then at level 1. And so there's a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking about which governor do I want, and how far do I want to upgrade that governor, or do I actually want to have another governor as well, instead of upgrading the ones I have? And so there's this real interesting dynamic there, and lots of balance and tuning levers to make interesting choices at all different stages of the game. But quickly on the Tughlaq fort, it's such a key building for the Civ, and we really spent a lot of time researching this and trying to bring the asset into the game as sort of like true to life as possible. In real history, in real life, the Tughlaq fort was never completed, and a curse was sort of placed on Ghazi Malik, and he basically was told, "You're never going to finish this," and he didn't finish his fort. But in Age of Empires 4 with the Tughlaq Dynasty, you can upgrade the fort, and each time you upgrade the fort, you're building it. You get a tower, you get bastions, and until you've sort of built it all up at level 3. And so we're trying to tell that story of that fort being built, and maybe a little bit of what it could have looked like if it had been built in history. And there's also an upgrade on the fort, which makes a reference to that curse as well, although in the gameplay it's a little bit different, since you wouldn't want an upgrade that makes your life harder. It works to your benefit.
And what happens if the keep gets destroyed when I elected a governor? Will I able to make that governor back again, or is it gone forever?
Yeah, that's a fun one. We've been back and forth on this a couple of times. Originally, it was actually quite punishing. We used to have a system where if you lose your keep after you've assigned a governor, that's it. You couldn't get the governor back, but we've changed it now. So if you do lose a keep with a governor, you can rebuild the keep and or Tughlaq fort, sorry, and you can get that governor back, basically. So it's quite flexible. If you lose anything, you can rebuild it.
So basically, okay, I can understand why you guys made the choice, because their H4 landmark, the Hisar Academy, generates resources on the how many governors you have, right? So up to 6. And imagining I already lost 3 governors, so do I go with that landmark or?
Kind of makes the landmark a bit dead, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
No, we had to do that.
Like the Delhi Hisar Academy is like, I'm generating more resource. All right, let's see. So, worker elephant, where does it beat the villagers or scorers in efficiency, and how do you balance the early cheese? Now, in here, what I meant as like. As what I've seen, I don't know if it was correct or not, but you can hug the villagers with worker elephants and the enemy can't get to it. Like, let's say I'm getting the gold. Does this speedman does actual damage to the worker elephants?
Yeah, the spearman. Okay, so a couple of things there. I mean, first of all, the worker elephant can be killed just like any other unit or building, but it is still an elephant, so it will take bonus damage from spearmen. As for, like, you're talking about sort of having the worker elephant standing on top of villagers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you solve that with attack move. If it's not possible to like select something or see something, right? But yeah, the goal obviously is that the villagers still should be harassable, and the worker elephant definitely will die if you focus that as well.
Because so the reason why I mentioned the scorers in efficiency, by the way, because this civilization lost all of its economical upgrades. It turned into one economical upgrade, which is you are getting more resources if you drop off the resource to the elephant, right? Or the town center, you are getting more resources. So is it much better than having scholars getting your fear upgrades? Or I was really thinking like gathering faster is better or dropping off more resources is better. So it was a really that part for me was very complicated, as like which one now is better, having the free upgrades with the scholars or having the work elephants with the more efficiency. It was very complicated for me.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to really compare Delhi scholars with Tughlaq, right? Like they're so
Mm,
completely different systems, and
mm,
the Delhi scholars, like it depends so much on how many you have, how many upgrades you can do. Like if you're in the feudal age and you don't have any upgrades to do, then you kind of aren't getting any bonus anymore until you reach Castle Age and you can queue up a bunch of more stuff. But originally, the Worker Elephant bonus used to only be bonus resources on drop off, but it was a little bit too good. Getting bonus resources essentially means that you get more resources out of a resource deposit. So if you have a
mm,
4,000 gold vein, and you get 20% more resources from it, you can sit in your base for a lot longer because you maybe
mm,
don't need as many villagers on gold, so you can actually like essentially make it last longer, and it means you don't have to push out as quickly. So we've actually reduced that a little bit, and so now you get a
mm.
bit of extra gather speed and bonus resources, and of course that levels up. But it has been simplified a lot, right? Like instead of having a separate upgrade for your lumber, a separate upgrade for your mining, and a separate upgrade for your food, it's all one upgrade, and it's all on the worker elephant. And it kind of just makes that decision to get it a little easier, but it is a lot more expensive as well.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense now. So it's much clearer for me. All right, let's go for the next one, which I'm really curious about. It's exactly the Bali's elephant. So, what is the um, real huge difference between the Springald and the Bali's elephant? Because I tried them out. They felt like Springald, but they had four legs.
Well, I mean, they're a lot stronger, right, in terms of their health. Like they're way more
Mm.
survivable. With 400 health without the upgrade, and then you can upgrade them to like an elite version where they get 475 health. And they're also, of course, getting the blacksmith upgrades as well. So they kind of upgrade in a different way. So they have way more health. They are a lot more expensive, of course. So you're paying for that health. But they don't do like double damage. Like they're not crazy OP in terms of the damage that they do. I think really the thing here is that they're a lot more survivable, right? And the things that you need to counter them are a little bit different. Crossbows, for example, are going to be pretty effective since they're heavy cavalry, and spearmen can be a lot more effective considering that they're also elephants. And so it just kind of changes the relationships, but it also makes them a lot bigger, a lot more like potent. And the whole thing with the Tughlaq is that they have a few new elephant units, right? It's not just a
Mm.
ballista elephant, it's also the raider elephant and the healer elephant as well. And that kind of just gives them this huge health pool. And you really have to think carefully about how you're going to take them out.
Yes, I heard or I seen that they also have a new ability, right? Which makes them stomp, 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 and it doesn't do like crazy amount of damage. But what I really liked about it is that you can just go through the army and let's say enemy has Springald or enemy has Vanguard, and like, all right, I'm gonna go there right now.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the things with the raider elephant, because the raider elephant replaces the horseman. You kind of lack that tool for taking out siege. Like horsemen are pretty good at picking off
Yes,
siege. They're
yes.
pretty good at taking out archers, right? Um, it doesn't make sense for us. I mean, of course, we could make the raider elephant move at the speed of a horseman, but that might be a little
Mm,
ridiculous. And so the trample ability that they have allows them to charge through the enemy lines and try and get to the back line, to compensate a little bit for that lack of move speed that they have. And the other thing with the Tughlaq as well, beyond the elephants, because of course, like we wanted to do more with the elephants with this civ, but just elephants on its own, a little bit one-dimensional. They have a few infantry related things as well. So the healer elephant, for example, has an aura which gains damage for nearby infantry. So the
hmm.
we're trying to encourage players to like make spearmen or make men at arms and kind of pair them with the healer elephant as like a combo, like a unit. And then there's also upgrades in the House of Learning, which are completely new, which do more to improve your mana arms and do more to improve your spearmen. And we've really tried hard to make sure that like all of these upgrades have some kind of like visual representation as well. You should check out the swords on the men at arms
Yeah,
when you
I
get the
see.
Kanda drills
Ye-
upgrade on the House of Learning. They are sick.
They're insane. Yes, and the reason behind it as well, if I remember, you guys with this DLC, we got a little bit like more realistic looking weapons, correct? More metallic.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we try and take the opportunities where we can to make some upgrades. As far as we can while we're making the DLC. So we did do a pass on a bunch of the different weapons to try and make them look a little bit more metallic, like you said. They were looking a little flat, so we went through and did that. We also made some new spears, which there was quite a few bugs a while back where the spearmen would like change weapon, like the spear would change when they spear walled or when they charged.
Oh yes,
So we made a
yes,
couple
yes.
more spears, and those bugs got fixed, and we made a unique spear for like the Mongols, I think, and for the Abbasid as well. So each sort of civ has its own sort of culturally different spear. And then yeah, like a few other things. Quality of life is something that is on my mind a lot. I want this game to feel great to play, and there are a lot of considerations about that as we're developing. And where we can, I mean, I'll say this: while we are working on the DLC, we're obviously very focused on the DLC. As soon as the DLC is released, we're focused on like what comes next, right? Like what are we going to do to balance and improve the experience and continue building on what we've put out into the world? Because Age 4 is a live game; it's constantly evolving, it's constantly developing, and so you'll see, for example, we made a change with villager selection to try and help, and specifically we did it for the Tughlaq, but I think it helps in a lot of places, because what we were finding was that you have your villagers and your worker elephants, and they're close together, and then you box select them, and your villager and your worker elephant are selected together. And what used to happen when you have a multi-selection with villagers and non-villagers is that the build menu would go away. And so you had to
Yes, yes.
deselect the thing that isn't the villagers so you can start building stuff again, right?
Yeah, it
But
was
we made it
annoying.
so that now, yeah, well, yeah, it annoyed me too. So we made the change. Now you can select units with villagers, and you still have the build menu. So you can like build a house or build whatever it is, while still having units that are not villagers selected at the same time.
That's a really good quality of life change, honestly, with you, because it really annoyed me as well when I wanted to build a tower and I accidentally selected a Manatom or a Spearman or a Horseman, or I put into the
Yeah.
same control group, or when I had Delhi Manatom and like, oh, I can build walls, but I can't build anything else.
Yep, exactly. So we tried to make an improvement there. We made some improvements to like the water, for example, in the floating gate, and we've got some more things coming like that for the cisterns as well to make them look a little better. And just a few more quality of life things are in the pipe, I will say. As Debs, I mean, I can speak on behalf of the whole Relic team here when I say that we love RTS, we love this game, and we're as much fans of this game as we are developers. And we see and we hear a lot of the feedback. We care about it deeply, and we're doing what we can to try and keep things updated and push things forward. Certainly, our goal to do that.
We're gonna go now to Crucible, because I'm really really hyped. So I'm telling all the viewers as well on the stream that there is one thing I'm insanely hyped about the DLC, and like that's Crucible. Even though I play PvP, I go tournaments, I finish in top 16 even. I play full competitively, but this is a single player content, right? And I'm so hyped about it because let's say there was a guy, someone who once tried it and tried on the highest level and tried per class, and let's say that guy also finished it in 45 minutes as well, because that guy couldn't sleep. It just played all over the hours. So I can tell you that many competitive players as well, even though in the early of this interview I said maybe competitive players will not try it. Well, I'm the example, the competitive player actually trying a Crucible and enjoying so much, because it's a roguelike game mode which literally gives me a campaign, right? But I'm playing this campaign every time differently. And that's the, I think, the most important thing about the Crucible, that it's a campaign. Yes, you have to protect your wonder, but every time when you do it, it's not the same way. It's every time differently. And I felt like it has more than I am saying this, more than 1,000 hours of single player content in the Crucible and more. It's, I'm not saying like, oh, it's only 1,000, more than 1,000 hours, because you can complete the Crucible multiple times with each civilization, because you guys made one of the best decisions ever, that you can showcase on your profile that where you are right now in the Crucible, and other people can see it, right?
Yeah, that's right. You can view anyone's profile and see how long they've survived on every mission and at every difficulty level, and even in Conqueror mode as well. Yeah, there's so much to say about the Crucible. We absolutely wanted to, as I said at the start of this interview, right? Like, we wanted to make sure there's something there for everybody in terms of the difficulty. But one thing that we realize, and like, we think about this a lot. Like, Age of Empires 4 as a game, it's already like 1,000-hour game. There is so much content, right? Like, especially in multiplayer, where people have played for 10,000 hours already in the 4 years that the game has been out. And so we wanted to sort of try and create something that mirrors that on the single player side, right? On the non-multiplayer side of things. And that's sort of where the Crucible sort of started. It was like, we want to create a mode of play which every time you play, it's got something different. There's challenges in there. You can play it with every civilization. You can try different strategies. There are so many boons in there that change, that combine together in different ways or change the way that you play. The map spawns, like the side objectives and the points of interest and even the enemy waves are different every single time. But more importantly, we built the Crucible, what we have today, with as a foundation, right? We've thought long and hard about how can we build this in a way that when we add new things to it, everything else can benefit. And so a lot of the systems that we built are really modular, and can really help speed up the content creation for future stuff, and really open the door to doing a whole heap of different things within the Crucible mode as a whole game mode and a whole experience within Age 4.
Well, I can tell you that just listening to you, all you said, it even gave me like 10 times more hype about playing Crucible, because it's really hard to put into words and feelings how amazing I felt and how happy I felt while playing the Crucible maps, because every time it was different. Every time I could play a civilization, okay, so I'm gonna do this but differently, and I can't do that. Oh my god, I got this boon first. Oh, I just got a lot of points. Now I can buy perks and start the game different. And more villagers, better scouts at the start, towers at the start. Everything was like flowing the information into my brain and like trying to process, and I got all these happy emotions while playing it. I think you guys really touched the game where it really need to be touched, because let's say that just like you mentioned, like players with 10,000 hours, I'm approaching 11,000 hours in Age of Empires 4, and sometimes I really needs like a single player content. I feel like that in Age of Empires 4, where okay, let's say I played 4, 5, 6 ranked game in 1 versus 1, but after that I just want to play a little bit some single player content. And right now I really can't find myself in Age of Empires 4, like which single player content because I'm not really into like play against AI. There are people who likes that really, but there are people like me who would I just don't want to play against AI. So when the first time I heard about it, roguelike game mode comes to Age of Empires 4, my eyes literally just opened up, shined like a diamond, like honestly, and I was like, oh my god, that game mode is gonna be insanely good. First time I tried it, I couldn't go to bed, so I literally got told multiple times by my girlfriend to go sleep because I need to sleep. I was like, I need to sleep. No, I'm playing something that you can't see, by the way, because NDA. But but I was like, I don't know when to go to bed because the Crucible game mode just literally sucked me in, and like, oh my god, I really liked it. And the funny thing is that that's literally how I feel about the Crucible. So you guys honestly did a really good job. If it can suck me in this much, then I feel like other people will feel the same, and they will not know when to go sleep. I can already tell you that.
Well, thank you for all of those yeah, lovely things. I mean, we certainly hope that players are going to enjoy it, and hopefully they can get to bed on time. But you know, who am I to judge? I think the Crucible is exciting. It's really exciting. It's sort of the first time that we've taken it sort of that far in the Age franchise, as far as I'm aware, and I'm excited for you know, to see how players are going to react and what they're going to find and what crazy things they'll be able to do. And you know, you mentioned the perks as well, right? The progression system that sort of you carry forward with you into every game that you play. And you know, for someone like yourself, who you're already an extremely skilled player, you're probably going to be able to beat the highest level difficulty at some point without any perks, I imagine. And maybe you already have. But for a lot of players who are not as sort of advanced as you are, that's a really engaging system because, you know, you might come in and start playing on easiest, right? But you're going to see that progression and you're going to see that progress. We're going to give you a few things along the way that can help you to level up and play on the higher level difficulties and challenge yourself. And in doing that, that player might also just improve at the game, get better at the game, get more comfortable in the game, and feel like they are able to, you know, maybe even go into multiplayer one day and feel more confident in doing that as well. So yeah, like we want to give people something new, something fresh, and hopefully it's just the start.
Well, I can tell you that I'm pretty sure because it's also gonna be really. So, what is really important in this that it follows the multiplayer balance, right? So, someone
Yeah.
can just jump into Crucible to find out the civilization they are playing and how they're playing, and that was really good. So I got a lot of footage from the Gamescom that people that never touched Age of Empires 4, but they got a really good vibes of playing it on Gamescom because for them it was like a baby steps learning the game, and it was so amazing to see that they were figuring it out, and that gave me the idea of like, wait, so people who actually comes to the Age of Empires 4 to try the first time, it's insanely good for them the Crucible, because then that's like a tutorial for them to understand. They can do whatever they wish for to figure out the civilization, and at the same time finishing something and getting points for it as well while figuring out the civilization. Let's say playing with the Mongols and like, oh, okay, you need to pack the building, you don't have wounds, or playing with the Byzantine order, like, okay, so olive oil, more resources. So it's really, really good to have this game mode for players who never tried Age of Empires 4 before, or just learning a new civilization this way. Let's say they played Age of Empires 4, but they are casual players. They don't want to jump into ranked immediately to play Tughlaq, but they're trying out the Crucible, so now they understand the civilization and how everything works together, which is really good. But let's jump to the end. A few more questions about the maps and biomes, and we finish for for this, right? So
Of
let's
course, we
see.
did Maps and Biomes as well. We haven't even covered everything yet.
Yeah. So when the dev team made the new eight new maps, eight new maps. What was
80
planned?
maps, yeah.
Yeah, mostly fun or some ranked gameplay as well. What was the point of, or what was the idea or the ideology of making these eight new
Sure.
maps?
Yes, 8 maps is, well, we wanted to think about this in terms of how can we split this up to get good coverage. We definitely set out to make maps that are great for competitive play. We also set out to make maps that are great for more casual experiences as well, less competitive, let's say. And we also wanted to do something a little bit more directly for nomad play as well. You'll see like Nomadic Ridges and Nomadic Tarns, which are 2 of the 8, and they're going directly into the free-for-all map pool for quick match, and they're also obviously great for nomad. So those maps sort of very deliberately set up in a way that when you play Nomad, because you don't start with the TC, there's more of like an even distribution of resources. Whereas when you play Nomad on something like Arabia, everyone still has a start position under the hood, and those resources are still kind of clustered around those start positions. And so we wanted to sort of expand on that, give something a little bit more interesting for the free-for-all Nomad crowd, which we know and love. But then for the competitive and casual side, like let's start with the casual side of things. We wanted to put in Michi. I can't believe we haven't done this yet. It's a classic map. It's obviously the full boom kind of map, and it makes a lot of sense, I think, for that to go in, as well as something like Cliff Sanity, which it's kind of wild. There's a lot of like random resource pickups. It's just for fun, right? And we have people on our team who play competitively. We have people on our team who really just play. I don't want to say for fun, right? Because people who play competitively are still playing for fun. It's just a different kind of approach to the game. It's a different mindset, right? Some people play because they want to be good and they want to be, really high skill players. Other people just want to make elephants and watch them run over things, right? And so we wanted to sort of capture both sides of that coin. And for the competitive maps, Ocean Gateway, for example, that's pretty fun. There's a really interesting balance between land and water there, with the water all the way around the outside, but also limited spaces in the edges of the map where you can access that water, and then quite an open center, so that there is really a lot of fighting over the wood and fighting for map control on land as well. And then something like Craters, which is a map that we added a brand new resource to, which is the Meteorite. I'm excited to see how that will shake things up. The Meteorite is a new resource deposit. You mine it and you get gold and stone at the same time. So it's pretty strong, but they're in very exposed locations. And so you've got to have to figure out how to defend it or deny it from your opponent.
Wait, do you mean that Mongol can now get their stone?
They can.
Whoa! Game changer! Huge! Love it! So we're gonna see more Mongol players. If create, I don't know. Is it gonna be like, let's say, might be somewhere in the future, maybe in a map pool or something like that? Maybe.
Yeah, it'll be in the map pool. So,
ooh, Mongols rides. All right, so let's see. About the new biomes. What are they, and why are they so different, and are they even so different? Is there anything you guys introduced?
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, the biomes, there's so much diversity there. We really wanted to do something that would just broaden the style that we have already with the existing biomes in the map. So you've got something like black sand, which is really striking, with like this dark black sand across the ground, and then these really like golden cliffs and golden hour sunlight, which is pretty beautiful. And then you've got something like Greek islands, which is a lot more Mediterranean, but also introduces a new berry bush, which is the prickly pear,
Ooh.
which is a berry bush replacement. It's a different visual. It doesn't function any differently, but we wanted to do a little bit there to like really set them apart. You may have seen the new color sheep, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
which we added to add a bit more variety and diversity, and also the meteorite, as I mentioned. And then in the tropical rainforest biome, there's the new, well, there's actually a few new trees, but there's the new Tughlaq tree, which is this like really tall, towering tree, which you'll see in the forests there. So, I mean, the biomes are just so fun, right? They just add a whole new look to the game, but they don't sort of dramatically change the gameplay as much as, say, the civs, the maps, and the game modes do, right?
Yes, and I heard that there is a sheep variant which has 0.1 something very small chance to spawn in. So I'm pretty sure I don't want to eat that. I don't want to kill that. If it has like 0.1 chance to spawn in, I was like, oh, that's very rare. So I gotta take so many screenshots of it for sure.
Super rare. Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, we like to have fun while we're making this, while we're making the expansion, while we're making the game. There's a few little hidden things in there which I won't spoil now, but I'm sure people will find them in time.
All right, so that was all that I really wanted to make an interview with you. So that was Dynasties of the East, which will launch on 4th of November. Guys, you can find the link under this video. Please pre-order it because it's a huge help for the devs for this amazing DLC because they put love, heart, time, sweat, people, everyone into this DLC. Huge thanks for ZeroEmpires to be here today with me to do this amazing interview because we just learned so much and even more. So thank you so much, Zero, for being here with me today, and I wish all of you a nice pre-order.
Thank you.